Have another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hi, this is Jeff Shapiro, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the June 5th to 11th issue of Buffalo Business First and the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. This is from 43 North. Foundation asks business leaders to help shape Western New York's next phase. The 43 North Foundation is launching an initiative to spark collaboration and build an innovation economy by mobilizing Western New York's business leaders. CEO Sarah Tanbaktucci Repa told key stakeholders gathered on May 28th at the Birchfield Penny Art Center that the foundation is committed to spending $100 million over the next 10 years, but needs focused efforts by leaders across all industries. To coordinate such an undertaking, the foundation announced its ambassador network, part of its new playbook, that it means to spark collaboration on startup investment, tech development, and strategic partnerships. The effort signals a shift in Buffalo's startup ecosystem following the planned end of the state-funded 43 North Accelerator's annual pitch competition. 43 North announced May 27th that this year's October event will be its last, as the 43 North Foundation moves to build on the Accelerator's success. So far, more than 70 individuals have committed as ambassadors, including Richard Ferranti, President and CEO of Rich Products, and Bill Brandell, President of North America for Ingram Micro. Bill Maggio, 43 North Board Chair Emeritus and 43 North Foundation Board Chairman, said that the city must leverage the influence of business leaders toward building the next generation of leaders. We only have two options as a community going forward: to be relevant or not, he said. And the only way that this city will be relevant again is if we step outside of our comfort zone and demand it. And make no mistake about it, we are absolutely in a race for relevancy. The idea for the Ambassador Network was in part inspired by conversations that John Gavin, the Foundation's Vice President of Corporate Connectivity, had with more than 200 senior business leaders in Buffalo. The Foundation has learned that Tanbaktucci Repa said that business leaders are willing to get involved in efforts to aid Buffalo's success, but have found it difficult to determine how to engage and create mutual benefits. The Ambassador Network, according to 43 North Foundation Vice Chairman Eric Reich, will break down such barriers and create an easy way to support innovation. It will provide a centralized platform where members are presented with opportunities tailored to their areas of interest. For example, a member exploring talent options could be directed to internship opportunities. Dan Miner, the Foundation's Vice President of Storytelling, pointed to a partnership between the Golisano Institute for Business and Entrepreneurship and Odoo as an early example of the corporate connectivity the Ambassador Network will create. Wright said that Buffalo faces an uncertain future as 20,000 fewer people visit downtown daily compared to before the pandemic. But, he said, it isn't all doom and gloom, as Foundation leaders have studied and visited other cities where revitalization was successful. A visit to Salt Lake City, which has transformed into a fast-growing tech hub, stood out in Tanbaktucci Repa's mind. Foundation leaders asked how the city transformed. The answer? A coordinated effort by the business community. As Ryan Smith, the billionaire owner of the Utah Jazz, told her, business drives change. It means that Buffalo's future is in the hands of the people in this room, she said to the stakeholders gathered May 28th, and your willingness to carry the torch. Next article is entitled, I Try to Be a Workhorse, Not a Show Horse. As president and CEO for Shays Performing Arts Center, Brian Higgins holds a visible role in the region, especially as the Downtown Theater continues a $50 million campus expansion. He also draws on a long history in public service that ended when he left Congress to take over at Shays in 2024. He continues to hold other roles in the community as a board member at Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center, Damon University, and the UB Jacobs School of Medicine and Biomedical Sciences Dean's Council. Question for him: what was a pivotal moment in your life? In 1994, I was ranked the best councilman in Buffalo. I was just a kid, and the party said, "We have to run you for higher office." I ran for county controller, had a glowing editorial endorsement, and raised a lot of money. And I lost. What's a lesson you learned from a mistake? See above. I probably should not have been so quick to fall into, "I'm great, I can do this." You don't learn from your wins, you learn from your losses. It was a tough time. The following year, I was accepted and received a scholarship to study for 2 years and got an advanced degree from Harvard. Have you had a strong mentor in your life? My mother and my father. And the older I get, the more meaningful they are. My dad was a bricklayer and a politician. My mother was a school teacher at Our Lady of Perpetual Health in the First Ward. If you had to choose a different career, what would you pick and why? I was a history teacher for 7 years and loved it. I've done everything I wanted to do. I have no regrets, but I like the classroom. What's an interesting fact about you that not everyone knows? Well, I'm probably shyer than people think for a politician. I'm not introverted, but not as comfortable in crowds. I didn't like the ceremonial aspect of what I did as much as the great work. I try to be a workhorse, not a show horse. How do you describe yourself as a boss? Fair and reasonable. My obligation is to inspire and motivate a workforce that takes seriously its obligation to make this better than when we started. Favorite place you've traveled? Well, I was on the Foreign Affairs Committee and traveled to 70 countries. Favorites? Parts, Rome, Tbilisi, Georgia, Ireland. What are you listening to or watching? David Brooks with The Atlantic. I listen to him on YouTube. What are your favorite places to eat? Mulberry in Lackawanna, Marco's. I just rediscovered Curly's. Oh, and Montemaggiore in Elma, or Connors in West Seneca. What was your first job, and would you do it again? I was a paper boy for the Buffalo Evening News, and I loved it. Sure, I would do it again, but I wouldn't run as fast. What is one thing you look for when hiring someone? That gleam in people's eyes that also manifests itself in everything that they do. There's a certain quality that is maybe hard to explain, but when you see it and experience it, you know it. And humility. What's your ultimate career goal? I'm kind of living it right now. I was very lucky. What I'm doing with these construction projects at 710 and here, it's the same skill set as if you're developing a waterfront. I think there's a higher purpose here, and we're going beyond the confines of our venues to help remake the theater district into a destination. A judge rules on dispute over AM&A's ownership. Judge voids 2020 sale but leaves control with 377 Main Realty Firm. After a 6-year legal fight, State Supreme Court Justice John Licata has answered one of the most heated questions in Buffalo real estate. Who owns the AM&A's building on Main Street? The answer, unsurprisingly, is complicated. 377 Main Realty LLC, the company that has claimed to own the long-vacant department store since 2020, essentially remains in control. Though Licata's decision voids 377 Main Realty's purchase of the property, it grants the company control of the building's actual owner. In 2014, Landco H&L bought the AM&A's property for $2.8 million. Landco was fully controlled by a woman named LTLT, or LI. In 2015, Lee sold her shares in Landco to Jejolman Liu. The share agreement said that Lee could take back 51% of her shares if Liu breached the agreement. The court found that Liu did not make the agreed-upon payments, violating the agreement, but Li never took steps to regain control of the company. In 2020, Li, claiming to be the sole owner of Landco, sold the property to 377 Main Realty Incorporated, led by Andy Chow, for $2 million. She also transferred control of the shares in Landco that she claimed to own to 377 Main Realty. The court ruled that Li did not have the authority to sell the property and ordered the deed be voided, reverting control to Landco. However, it also ruled that because Liu violated the initial 2015 agreement, she must give up 51% of her shares in Landco. These shares would revert to Li, but will instead go to 377 Main Realty because Li transferred her shares to that entity in 2020. In the end, while 377 Main Realty lost ownership of the building, it gained ownership of Landco, the company that owns the building. What the ruling means for the decrepit building in the short term is unclear. I'm anxious to know myself, said Sam Savarino, the local developer who has been working with 377 Main Realty to maintain and develop the property. Savarino and 377 Main Realty in 2020 proposed a $60 million mixed-use redevelopment of the site. Savarino said other than a brief conversation with an attorney that he's heard little about the ruling or plans for the property now that the case has been resolved. It remains to be seen whether any parties will appeal the decision, and various financial stakeholders likely will still fight to get their money back. In 2017, Landco, under Liu's control, borrowed $6.5 million from investor Whelping Chow. Landco defaulted on the loan. Wakata's decision does not award any money or control of the property to Chow. In 2020, BP3 Capital issued a $1 million mortgage loan to 377 Main Realty for the purchase of the property. That loan was never repaid, and earlier this year, BP3 started foreclosure proceedings. That case is still ongoing, but the court ruled that BP3 should have investigated the ownership dispute over the property before issuing the loan. The failure to inquire and investigate means BP3 Capital was not a good faith mortgagee, and its encumbrance on 377 Main Street is invalid, Wakata wrote in the decision. Simonelli buys back land and plans 160 homes. A Simonelli real estate affiliate has purchased nearly 18 acres in Amherst for $2.03 million ahead of a planned townhome project. 770 JJAP LLC purchased the vacant land at 770 and 790 John James Audubon Parkway from Parcel 2 Muir Woods Owner LLC, an affiliate of student housing developer Aspen Heights, according to records filed with the Erie County Clerk's Office. It's the developer's second time owning the property. In 2022, Simonelli Real Estate sold 42 acres of the larger Muir Woods development site to Aspen Heights. The Texas-based student housing developer built a student apartment community on a portion of that parcel, but plans for a second phase on the remaining 18 acres were scrapped, and Aspen Heights listed that property for sale in 2025. Now, Simonelli owns it again and plans to build 160 townhomes on the property. The townhomes at Muir Woods project will consist of 30 4- and 6-unit buildings. Town of Amherst planning officials are reviewing the proposal. A big number. The amount for which Parker Road Developers LLC purchased the 35-acre vacant parcel in Hamburg across from SUNY Erie parking lot and a few hundred yards away from the new Buffalo Bills Stadium. That number? $1.74 million. You're listening to a reading of articles and features from Buffalo Business First on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Executive Insights. Endeavor Health evolves amidst industry challenges. Buffalo Business First publisher John Tibell recently sat down with area business leaders to get to know them better. The following is an excerpt from one of those conversations. Nonprofit behavioral health science provider Endeavor Health Services is launching new programs, engaging in building projects, and pursuing a merger with a like provider, all while muscling through the many challenges of the field. Endeavor Health currently operates in 26 service sites in and around Buffalo and Rochester and works off-site with Child Protective Services and private employers to help support and train on mental health. The organization also provides mental health awareness education with parents, teachers, and others who interact with the youth to help them intervene at the earliest signs of distress or depression. We are really all over, said President and CEO Elizabeth Morrow. We are bringing our subject matter expertise to the community, not just at outpatient clinics. Endeavor Health has added to its menu of services a program called Safe Options Support, SOS, in which a dedicated team fans out across Endeavor Health service area to work with those who experience chronic homelessness. A parallel team is being formed around the Critical Time Intervention model, a care management service for adults with serious mental illness. According to the State Office of Mental Health, the approach is used during a critical time of transition in people's lives. Teams coordinate the services and supports that help people return to their community. Services include outreach and engagement with people in care settings, such as inpatient hospitals and crisis units, as well as in the community. Endeavor Health is using a team of staff that covers 5 counties of Western New York. This team works with the person for a minimum of a year. Utilizing a holistic approach, supports are put in place to stabilize the person and prevent rehospitalization, Morrow said. Meanwhile, Endeavor Health has 2 building projects underway. One is under construction at 1420 Broadway. The state-of-the-art 14,300 square foot facility will have therapy rooms, offices, exam spaces, a kitchen, and laundry facilities. When the $9.5 million building is complete at Summer's End, it's going to replace its current facility half a mile up the street. Endeavor Health has launched a capital campaign to help fund the last 20% of the cost of the building as prices have risen since construction began, Morrow said. The second project involves a building Endeavor Health purchased on South Plymouth Avenue in Rochester. Renovations there are expected to be complete next year. Endeavor Health is also moving close to a merger with Restoration Society, Inc., expected later this summer. Restoration Society was founded in 1973 and offers recovery-based mental health services, including peer recovery programs. The affiliation, announced earlier this year, created a behavioral health organization with 310 staff and $26 million in revenue, with a goal of strengthening long-term sustainability while enhancing services and access to care. We have been working together well. We have worked together for years in a very effective partnership, Morrow said. We are starting to interlock boards and co-locate services. Restoration Society is a peer-run agency. They offer amazing services, and their service mix is very complementary with Endeavor's. These initiatives have come during a financial crisis in which major federal grants hung in the balance. Endeavor, and like nonprofits, were warned of cuts in general, but not the specific programs that would be affected. Appeals were made at the federal level, but word came literally in the middle of the night, and that the cuts were enacted immediately, and for Endeavor Health, 2 of its largest grants were involved. This, even though Endeavor has achieved all its goals as set by the Federal Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, Morrow said. The funding cuts would not last, however. There was a huge advocacy effort, and then within 24 hours it was rescinded. It was like, no, never mind, she said. Morrow said she and her administrative team have sheltered clients and staff from anxiety and stress of the funding uncertainty by sharing information clearly, accurately, and in a timely manner. The off-again, on-again grant funding was distressing to staff, but they were encouraged to stay the course. They were brought together in employee resource groups to help support each other, and were invited to take a break and recharge through various activities, such as a book club and garden project. Endeavor Health wants to be known as a place where careers are built and has created career development pathways for staff to take on individual and group projects to stretch and learn, Morrow said. Most folks that come to work for nonprofits are mission-based people, she said. That's where their heart lies. And so we're giving people these opportunities to see how they are making an impact and to lead and to see what that feels like. The organization also is incentivizing workers with offers of flexible schedules, tuition vouchers, and school loan forgiveness programs toward advancing their education to a higher level degree or a complementary degree. Staff members who started working at Endeavor Health in high school now have master's degrees, and another just became a nurse practitioner by taking advantage of the program. Staff could do well by following Morrow's drive and enthusiasm for serving Endeavor Health clients. I love waking up and going to work, she said. I feel like having something that you can wrap your heart around as well as your mind is so important, to feel at the end of the day that you're doing your best to make the world a better place in whatever small ways that we can. For me, mental health and emotional health is so critical because it runs through all of it. East Aurora firm lands global partnership. KGB Aviation produces flight data recorders for the aerospace industry. Kevin Ballas wasn't expecting the FBI to visit his East Aurora company a few years ago, but in hindsight, it was entirely surprising. I came to the door. It wasn't entirely surprising. I came to the door, and there were two people in long trench coats with badges saying, "We're FBI. We'd like to talk to you," said Kevin, who had recently visited a trade show in Alaska. The agents asked him why he was in Alaska, who he talked to, and what companies he worked with. They also gave him a list of Russian names to see if he knew any of them. He didn't. They told him that they had tracked a Russian spy to that aviation conference. I called Maria and told her that the FBI wanted to know if I knew all these Russian spies, and she said, "Duh, your name is KGB." Kevin said, "That's when it dawned on me. KGB Aviation makes data and audio recorders and equipment for air and ground support. When Kevin and his wife Maria started the company in 2007, they named it after Kevin's initials, not realizing it could attract interest from the feds. That hasn't impacted growth or innovation for the small company. In April, the company announced a commercial partnership with Fokker Services Group, a global aerospace services company based in Amsterdam. KGB will supply Fokker with its customers with its Skylog 25 and Skylog 25A, which are 25-hour flight data and cockpit voice recorders, and some of the lightest ones on the market. Every pound on an aircraft costs money and fuel, said Kevin, who has been in the aviation business for more than 40 years. We all know what's happening right now with the squeeze in gas prices. So the lighter the recorder, as long as it's compliant, the less fuel. In 2018, KGB Aviation started developing the ground support product that they're most known for, a secure data transfer tool known as DART, Data Acquisition Ruggedized Tool. We wanted one tool that could be interchangeable with multiple manufacturers and models of flight recorders, and all they need to do is change the cables out, Maria said. Ice cream maker enters phase 2 of a $425 million project. An ice cream company is in phase 2 of its $425 million project to construct a Dunkirk plant. The first phase saw Wells Enterprises add a chocolate factory in the summer of 2025, followed by the ice cream portion of the plant in September, for a footprint of about 357,000 square feet. Now, Wells is working on the final demolition of the old plant and construction of administrative offices. Director of Operations David Fiore said that he's excited about Phase 2 because it includes a new wellness center, locker rooms, offices, and a 2-story cafeteria. The building is scheduled to open in July. This part was most important to Wells because the 75-year-old building had not been taken care of, and it was a small space, he said. It's a piece of the puzzle that had to happen, but it certainly didn't have to happen at this level. Fiore said the plant started running 2 ice cream production lines in the fall and 2 more in January and February. The global lines that opened in the fall are for Nutella and Kinder Bueno flat top cones and pints. The 2 that opened this year are for half gallons and cups. Fiore said the plant will open a 5th line in September and a 6th line in March of 2027. Kushiki closes the last location, ending 40 years of business. The shutdown follows years of expansion and contraction. Kushiki's bakery has closed, bringing its 40-year history to an end. Ania Duchan, the second-generation owner and president of the Polish bakery, told Buffalo Business First about the decision via text message ahead of a planned bittersweet social media post, saying on May 31st would be the retail bakery's last day. Duchan said the decision to close came down to focusing on her family. Sometimes in life you just instinctively feel when it's time to close a beautiful chapter and start a new one, and I've been feeling this way for quite some time, she said. Kushiki's roots date back to the late 1980s, when Duchan's parents, Tadeusz and Hania Robleniak, emigrated from Poland to Buffalo. They went to work at EM Bakery at the Broadway Market and bought the bakery years later. Duchan joined the business in 2010. The decision comes 6 months after the bakery reopened inside the lobby of the Delvin Hotel at Salvatore's Italian Gardens, a move that followed the closure in fall 2025 of the European Lounge at 4475 Transit Road at the Eastern Hills Mall. Duchan and her husband Andrew moved the bakery from the Broadway Market to Clarence in 2020. They expanded by adding Stoll Latin Bar and an event center, as well as a market for the Simply Pierogi division, which at one time was also being sold wholesale to supermarkets and restaurants. Expansions over the next few years included the 2023 opening of Queen City Pizza on Sheridan Drive and Pierogi Pizza on Transit, with the pizzeria closing 6 months later and the Pierogi Fast Casual Eatery in late of 2024. Also in 2024, the family closed a small retail site and commercial bakery operation in Lancaster after 14 years, consolidating operations at Eastern Hills. At that point, the company had about 75 people on staff. The business has about 10 employees remaining, all of whom Duchan said have found new opportunities. In her text message, Duchan said she's proud of the 40 years that her family has spent creating memories and building relationships through the business. She did not specify what she'll do next, other than continue to produce Stolla with Anya, a television show on WBBZ that has aired more than 20 episodes in the past 3 years. While I look forward to achieving more balance and spending more time with family, I'm also excited about what the future holds, both professionally and personally, she said. Worksport brings CFO role in-house. A West Seneca company has appointed its first in-house chief financial officer. Jennifer Karchak started her career in public accounting at firms like Lumsden McCormick and EY, before working at Moog and later starting her own consulting firm. As of May 1st, she's the CFO for Worksport, which manufactures pickup truck tonneau covers at its plant on North America Drive. Part of the growth phase for Worksport is our CEO, Stephen Rossi, recognized that it makes sense to bring resources in-house and demonstrate the fact that we have the capabilities within our organization to support operations, said Karchak, a Canisius University graduate. Karchak will replace Michael Johnston, who resigned April 30th. He was an outsourced CFO, not an employee of the company. Worksport, which employs about 95 in West Seneca, started production in West Seneca in 2023. You're currently listening to reading of articles and features from Buffalo Business First on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. FC Buffalo asked community for help. Soccer Club's president took to social media to help sustain operations at a time when many Western New York businesses and nonprofits are feeling the pinch. FC Buffalo took a unique step recently when it went public with a very transparent call for help. The working title for this post was "We Need Money," a post to the team's website by co-founder and president Nick Mendola said. The financial challenges before the 17-year-old grassroots soccer club are familiar to many businesses right now. The way the club is responding to them might not be. Times have changed, and it doesn't do us any good to trudge onward with some sort of things are better than they are mentality, said Mendola's post. We're betting that the community that's built us up will move us forward. And if it doesn't work, it'll be our fault, not theirs. Over the last several years, FC Buffalo has faced added challenges with the pandemic, a changing sports industry, and local uncertainty. Mendola would be the first to tell you that mistakes have been made and lessons have been learned along the way. The team started 17 years ago, after the National Premier Soccer League left Buffalo, when a group of friends stepped in simply for the love of the game. They aspired to bring soccer at its highest level to the Queen City. By around year 5, the club had enough season ticket holders and supporters to be in, quote, decent, unquote, position. Then, in 2019, FC Buffalo got invited to represent Buffalo as a sister city for Dortmund, Germany. After crunching the numbers and forecasting ticket sales, the team traveled to Germany, competed in 3 games, and returned home to host a team from Germany in Buffalo. The goal was always to build up, and we never got close to it, to be honest with you, but we could see it, Mendola said. They could taste it going into that Germany trip. Then the pandemic hit, summer 2020, there were no fans in the stands, and in 2021, there was a limit of 150. FC Buffalo started a women's team in 2021 and changed the men's team from the National Premier Soccer League to the United Soccer League to make it more competitive recruiting players. The decision was helped by the USL's interest around that time of bringing a USL championship team, a higher tier team than USL League Two, to Buffalo. Within the last few years, FC Buffalo also moved its women's team to USL and started a youth academy, which Buffalo Pro Soccer acquired in February of 2025. The organization now has 80 members, from players to coaches and administrators, and plays at SUNY Buffalo State University. At its height, the club had around 225 season ticket holders, and it's near those levels again now. The idea was, can we be that underdog team that embraces the same sort of passion and vitality that we see when the Bills and Sabres and Bandits and Bisons are good, or the local colleges as well, Mendola said. There was room for us there, and really for a better part of a decade, the trajectory was upward pretty much every year. But what's changed? Global, national, and local challenges have all come into play. It has never, ever been harder to run a sports team in the United States, Mendola said in the post on FC Buffalo's website. To paint just part of the picture, FC Buffalo's annual budget was around $50,000 during its first year when there was only a men's team. Mendola said he can't give the exact current number, but now it's over $100,000. Then there are the efforts to bring a USL championship team to Buffalo. An ownership group led by real estate developer John H. McClatchy Jr. secured a conditional agreement with USL in 2019. FC Buffalo was in the conversations with McClatchy about how FC Buffalo would fit into the new team, but McClatchy's plans never materialized. Then, in 2024, Buffalo native Peter Marlette Jr. announced plans to form a USL championship team, Buffalo Pro Soccer, and build a stadium. Site plans for a stadium on Elk Street were scrapped after a neighboring business publicly opposed the project, and Buffalo Pro Soccer's goal changed from fielding a team for the 2026 season to the 2027 season. Buffalo Pro Soccer announced on June 2nd that it will not field a team in 2027 and is pushing back its timeline again with no new start date set. Fundraising became more challenging for FC Buffalo with a higher-tier soccer team set to join the Buffalo market. The club also expected to be folded into Buffalo Pro Soccer. To that end, and to be completely transparent, our club did not expect to be operating under current ownership for the 2026 USL 2 and USL 1 West League seasons, Mendola said in his post, and have had to reassess our plans for future seasons. The door has not been definitively closed between the two organizations, Mendola said, but communication has been quieter as Buffalo Pro Soccer goes about selecting a stadium site and meeting other USL requirements. In the meantime, FC Buffalo is asking for financial support, whether that means buying jerseys and season tickets or making donations and asking businesses to be sponsors. We went down to the very, 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 very bare bones of reserves, Mendola said. So what we always were trying to build to, leading up to the pandemic, was having enough in reserves that we knew the next season was fully guaranteed. That's why there isn't a lid on this. The exact amount needed to fuel reserves for next season is undetermined because it depends on factors such as crowd numbers and merchandise sales. Mendoza also wants FC Buffalo to be in a better financial position so he can hand off the organization to leaders who can do better than he can. When FC Buffalo first started, he and his co-founders were encouraged to not let people see them sweat and build the organization bigger to work with larger businesses. One thing he's learned since, sometimes it's better to be more open. There are a lot of people out there who would have felt and maybe would have stepped in and helped us a little bit earlier if they knew that we weren't this self-sustaining constant that couldn't be put under threat, he said. As a club, we've always been idealists. A little bit of pragmatism and a little bit earlier would have gone a long way. Well, promotion. Lucas Froman. Froman Injury Law, PLLC, is proud to announce the promotion of Lucas J. Froman to partner. Lucas has been recognized for his significant contributions to the firm's continued growth, leadership, and long-term success. Throughout his practice, he has developed extensive experience representing injured individuals in a wide range of personal injury matters, playing an important role in litigation strategy, case development, client advocacy, settlement negotiations, and trial preparation. Known for a strong work ethic, attention to detail, and client-focused approach, Lucas works closely with clients throughout every stage of the legal process to help ensure that they feel informed, supported, and confidently represented. As a third-generation member of the Froman family, Lucas continues a long-standing commitment to advocating for injured individuals while helping guide the firm into its next generation of leadership and continued service to the Western New York community. Insurance, Amy Ray Nessa. With more than 10 years of experience supporting businesses in construction, hospitality, and business development, Amy Ray joins Lawley as an insurance advisor. Most recently, she served as membership and sales director for the Construction Exchange in Buffalo and Western New York, where she built strong strategic relationships and connections across the industry. She earned her bachelor's degree from Buff State University and is active in several community and industry organizations. Law. Braden Pritchard. Braden Pritchard has joined the board of directors of the Darwin Martin House. He's also the president of the Parkside Community Association and serves on the Elmwood Village Association Board, St. Margaret Parish Council, St. Joseph Collegiate Institute Alumni Board, St. Mark St. Rose Holy Name Board, Erie County Democratic Committee, and the Toole Library Board. Nonprofit. Cara Monteliano. Cara Monteliano has been promoted to Vice President, Community Impact. In this role, Cara leads the Foundation's Community Impact Team and is responsible for working with external partners to achieve the Community Foundation's goals of advancing education, racial/ethnic equity, the environment, and arts and architecture. Cara joined the Community Foundation in 2008. Nonprofits. Emily Wyckoff. Emily Wyckoff has been promoted to Chief Philanthropy Officer. Emily oversees the client relations, gift planning, and communications teams. She's dedicated to working with clients, understanding their philanthropic intentions, and assisting them with their charitable giving. Emily joined the Community Foundation in 2023. The following are a sampling of real estate deed transactions collected by American City Business Journals for Erie and Niagara counties through May of 29. The seller was Renee Gerdelli Revocable Trust and Connie Grancelli. The buyer, Timothy Renard Hogues. The property was at 1 Sergeant Drive, Lockport. The amount, $599,000. The seller, Lamarca 2023 Family Trust, and Maria L. Young. Buyer, Vitalia Savsyuk. Property address, 4135 Ridge Road in Lockport. Amount, $500,000. The seller, Paris Mechanical Incorporated. Buyer, Elena Koshfikaya and Vladimir Koshfisky at 5358 Murphy Road in Lockport for the amount of $338,500. James Marotta and Paul Marotta sold to James D. Burns and Jenna M. Burns the 6361 Old Niagara Road in Lockport for $314,000. Renee Snyder sold to Jamie Rabon the property at 427 Wake Road, North Tonawanda, for $255,000. And Sean Gaylor sold to Chad Thomas Gaylor and Chelsea Ann Gaylor the property at 48 Ambleside Drive in Lockport for $250,000. Judgments. A sampling of judgments in Erie and Niagara County collected by American City Business Journals through May of 29. LO Capital Group, LLC, was the plaintiff, and the defendant, North Peninsula Veterinary Surgical Group, Veterinary Corp. The amount was $289,092, and the winner was the plaintiff. M&T Bank was the plaintiff against Jack's Puff Construction Incorporated, Timothy J. Puff. $212,449. M&T was the winner. Kalamata Capital Group, LLC, sued UBIF DT LLC, Breakfast, for $169,158, and they won. M&T Bank sued the Hard Hat Guys, LLC, Chaya Bina Mendelitz, for over $150,000. They won. M&T won. Commissioners of the State Insurance Fund sued E&S Medical Transportation for a little over $149,000, and they were successful. M&T Bank sued Muncie Premier Painters for about $95,000 and was successful. M&T Bank also sued Kofako Yosef Yitzchak Beshiri for almost $95,000 and was successful. And M&T Bank also sued NT Management New York Corporation for $90,000, and M&T was successful with that as well. You're listening to a reading of articles and features from Buffalo Business First and the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The following are some new businesses. Sample from Chautauqua, Erie, Genesee, and Niagara counties, and collected by American City Business Journals through May 29th. CDC Painting and Restoration at 1680 Meadow Drive in Alden. Riley Brothers, LLC, at 329 Brentwood Road in Amherst. CB Online Enterprises at 80 West Maplemere Road in Amherst. SJN Ventures, LLC, 834 Klein Road in Amherst. Tap Jewelry and Coin, LLC, at 455 Rote Drive in Angola. BRMT, LLC, at 2 North Street, Batavia. Western New York Huskies, LLC, 219 South Swan Street in Batavia. 3G Craftsman Home Inspections, LLC, at 408 Garden Drive in Batavia. Freedom, LLC, 7 Maple Street in Batavia. 716 Valley View Properties at 4148 Dutch Hollow Road, Bemis Point. Strategic Services by Stephanie, LLC, 6025 West Tillen Road in Boston. Clean Slate Detailing of Western New York, LLC, at 6662 Brown Hill Road in Boston. Constructed Visions, LLC, 8867 South Greenbrier Terrace in Boston. Upfront Solutions, LLC, 1 Seneca Street, number 257 in Buffalo. Vector AI, LLC, 127 Fawn Terrace in Buffalo. Elevate AI Solutions, LLC, 1279 Michigan Avenue in Buffalo. Yazam Properties, LLC, 1538 Fillmore Avenue. Chapman & Chapman Vehicle Transport Services, 174 Ramsdale Avenue in Buffalo. Get Order Hub, LLC, 215 South Shore Drive, Buffalo, 14219. Spotlight Collective, LLC, 289 Abbey Street in Buffalo. Buffalo Cleanscape, LLC, 36 Lathrop Street in Buffalo. Connor Trucking, LLC, 38 Mount Vernon Road in Buffalo. Clark and the Hill, LLC, 4476 Main Street in Buffalo. Iron Oak and Energy, 50 Columbus Avenue in Buffalo. Bunny Staging Services, 65 Quincy Street in Buffalo. Calibrated Carpentry, LLC, 72 Olcott Avenue in Buffalo. Vintage by Queen City, LLC, 746 Elmwood Avenue in Buffalo. Deepest, LLC, 80 Pulaski Street in Buffalo. Howling State Group, 82 Blick Street in Buffalo. And Bossed Up Barbershop, LLC, 822 Hurdle Avenue in Buffalo. And the following are sampling of new corporations. 5880 Route 39 Corporation at 279 Niagara Falls Boulevard, Amherst. TJC Town Incorporated, 10 Valley Drive in Batavia. Heat House Buffalo Incorporated, 6610 Rice Road in Boston. Mata Coffee House Incorporated, 1 Walden Galleria Drive in Buffalo. Williams Auto Sport Incorporated, 158 Whitney Place in Buffalo. KUN MH Corporation, 1967 Worley Drive in Buffalo. Thumbnail Incorporated, 200 John James Audubon Parkway in Buffalo. Bison Consultancy Group, 2136 Main Street in Buffalo. and AMZ Worldwide Inc., 22 Herb Street, second floor in Buffalo. Default summons. Notice to appear and order appointing attorney for the child. Family Court of the State of New York, County of Niagara, in the matter of the commitment of guardianship and custody pursuant to Section 384B of the Social Services Law of Juan Alberto Andino III, a child under the age of 18 years alleged to be a permanently neglected child. Kirsten Leah Vachon responded to Kirsten Leah Vachon, 69 Ashland Avenue, Apartment 4 in Buffalo. Please take notice that a petition dated January 13, 2026, having been presented to the Family Court of the State of New York, Niagara County, alleging that the above-named child in the care of the Niagara County Department of Social Services should be committed to the guardianship and custody of the Niagara County Department of Social Services. A copy of said petition having been filed with the court, and that a summons has been issued in the name of the people of the State of New York for your appearance in this proceeding. Please take notice that you are hereby summoned to appear before this court on July 1st, 2026 at 2 p.m. in Part 1. The purpose, default termination of parental rights hearing to show cause why the court should not enter an order committing the guardianship and custody of the child to the petitioning Niagara County Department of Social Services as provided by law. Default summons. Notice to appear and order appointing attorney for the child. Family Court of the State of New York. In the matter of the commitment of guardianship and custody pursuant to Section 384B of the Social Services Law of Juan Alberto Andino, a child under the age of 18. Please take notice that a petition dated January 13, 2026, having been presented to the Family Court of the State of New York, Niagara County, alleging that the above-named child in the care of the Niagara County Department of Social Services should be committed to the guardianship and custody of the Niagara County Department of Social Services. Publication notice of organization of limited liability company. The name of the limited liability company is JW Collective LLC. Its articles of organization were filed with the Secretary of State on May 21st, 2026. The county within New York in which its office is to be located is Erie. The Secretary of State has been designated as agent upon whom process may be served. The post office address to which the Secretary of State shall mail the process is 371 Lafayette Avenue, Buffalo, New York, 14213. The purpose of its business is to conduct any lawful business under law. Notice is given that a pending license for liquor, wine, beer, and cider has been applied for by 149 Elmwood LLC, DBA Savoy, to sell liquor, wine, beer, and cider at retail in a bar/tavern located at 291 Ellicott Street, Buffalo, County of Erie, State of New York, under the Alcoholic Beverage Control Law for on-premises consumption. Here's a few notices of sale. Supreme Court, County of Erie, Wintrust Mortgage, a division of Barrington Bank and Trust Company, plaintiff against Julian H. Malcolm, a.k.a. Jillian Malcolm, Brian J. Malcolm, a.k.a. Brian Malcolm, pursuant to a judgment of foreclosure and sale duly entered April 7, 2026, I, the undersigned referee, will sell at public auction at the closing room of the Erie County Clerk's Office, first floor, 92 Franklin Street, Buffalo, New York, on July 8th, 2026 at 11 a.m. Premises known as 1 Preble Court, West Seneca, New York, 14224. All that certain plot, piece of, or parcel of land with the buildings and improvements erected, situate, lying, and being in the town of West Seneca, County of Erie, and State of New York. Approximate amount of judgment, $223,700. $73.45, plus interest and costs. Premises will be sold subject to provisions of File Judgment Index 804-320-2024. And for sale information, please visit ServiceLink Auction at https://www.servicelinkauction.com or call 866-539-4173. Franklin Pratcher, Esquire. Another notice of sale. The Bank of New York, Mellon. The Bank of New York is successor in interest to J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, and pursuant to a judgment of foreclosure and sale dated March 17, 2026, and entered on April 9, 2026, I, the undersigned referee, will sell at public auction in the closing room of the Erie County Clerk's Office located on the first floor of 92 Franklin Street, Buffalo, New York, on July 9th, 2026 at 10:10 a.m. Premises situate in the city of Buffalo, known and designated as SBL 79.6559. The said premises known as 37 Rounds Avenue in Buffalo, 14215. Approximate amount of lien is about $45,000, plus interest and costs, and the premises will be sold subject to provision of file judgment and terms of sale. Pincus and Tarab are the attorneys for the plaintiffs. Another, pursuant to a judgment of foreclosure and sale dated March 16th and entered on March 27th, at July 6, 2026, at 10 a.m., premises situated in the town of Orchard Park, bounded and described as follows: beginning at the intersection of a northerly line of lands conveyed by Albert S. Oakes and Helen Oakes, his wife, to Fred Sager by deed dated October 1st, 1920, and recorded in Erie County Clerk's Office in Lieber 1526 of deeds at page 597, with the westerly property line of the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad, thence northwesterly along the westward line of said railroad company's property line 60 feet. Said premises known as 4168 S. Taylor Road, Orchard Park, New York. The approximate amount of lien is $32,000 plus interest and costs. Premises will be sold subject to provisions of file judgment and terms of sale. If the sale is set aside for any reason, the purchaser at the sale shall be entitled only to return of the deposit paid. The purchaser shall have no further recourse against the mortgagor, the mortgagee, or the mortgagee's attorney. Edward Sundquist, Esquire. You've been listening to reading of articles and features from the June 5th through 11th issue of Buffalo Business First. We read from Buffalo Business First every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Your reader has been Jeff Shapiro. Thank you for listening.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have Time Magazine. At 8 o'clock is the New York Times, and at 9 o'clock is our comic book reading from our friends at Comic Storian with an episode Batman issue number 6, Ultimate Spider-Man number 4, Superman 6 through 8, and The End of Vision. Stay with us. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability